All right, so we're going to do chapter 3, basic hand tools now. All right, after studying this chapter, you'll be able to identify common automotive hand tools. List safety rules for hand tools, select the right tool for any given job, maintain and store tools properly, use hand tools safely, explain why insulated tools must be used when servicing electronic drivetrains. So, some tool rules is to purchase quality tools, keep your tools organized, keep tools clean, use the right tool for the job. So you want to purchase quality tools because you don't want any tools to break while you're trying to use them. If they do, you run the risk of hurting yourself or damaging the parts that you're working on or the vehicle you're working on. You want to keep them organized so you're not tripping and falling up over them when they're on the floor, and want them in your pocket or anything so that they don't stick into you, injure you, or anything like that. Keep them clean. So you have so it's not greasy or anything, so your hand doesn't slip off and you injure in your hand or anything like that. And use the right tool for the job so you're not damaging the things around you or possibly injuring yourself because you're using the improper tool. All right, tool storage. Toolbox stores and protects tools not in use. There's 3 basic parts. You have a large roll-around cabinet, upper tool chest, and a small carrying tray, so you can carry it around the shop. Toolbox organization. Keep related tools in the same drawer. Do not keep small, delicate tools with heavy ones. You don't want your small tools getting damaged because a heavy tool crashed into it and broke it. And tool holders, which help organize small tools and provides portability, so you can move them around the shop. You're not always going to be working around your toolbox. You might have to move around the shop, so you might have to take the organizer, carry it where you're going, so you can be a little bit mobile inside the shop. Wrenches used to install and remove nuts and bolts. Wrench size is the measurement across the wrench jaws. Stamped on the side of the wrench gives you the size of the wrench. It can be conventional, which is in inches, or it can be metric, which is millimeters. So either one of those, it can be some standard sizes, conventional sizes do cross with metric, but not all of them. So there's a couple of them that will, but not all of them. So don't think that you can use one or the other. You have to use what that specific size for the bolt is or nut. All right, wrench safety. Always select the correct size. Never hammer on wrenches. When possible, pull, don't push. Never use a steel bar or pipe to increase leverage. So, of course, again, using the right tool for the right job. You don't want to use the wrong size. You can slip off and injure yourself. You want to pull a wrench to you. Not every time you'll be able to, but you will want to try to make sure you're pulling it towards you. If you're pushing a wrench, when the bolt breaks loose or the nut breaks loose, you run the risk of hitting your hand on something. You can cut yourself, things like that. And you don't want to use a pipe or a bar on a wrench to increase leverage. You run the risk of it slipping off or breaking that wrench. All right, there's a few different types of wrenches. You have your open end wrenches, which is the top picture there. You have boxed in wrenches, which is the second from the top right here, this guy. So you can see how it's fully boxed in, fully enclosed. You have combination wrench, which is a combination of the open end and the box end. You have a tubing or line wrench, also known as a flare nut wrench. You can see it has, it's almost a boxed end, but has a little cutout. So brake lines and stuff, the fittings have a line that runs through the fitting. So you have to get the wrench around a line. So it has to cut out so that line, brake line or fuel line can go through it. But then you have the optimum amount of surface on the fitting to break it loose, keep it from rounding off. Those fittings are pretty soft. They round off very easily. So you want to make sure that you have as much surface area on that fitting as possible, and it fits very snugly. And then you have your ratcheting wrench. This has a ratcheting mechanism on the back here on the box end, so that you can fit into tight spaces, and it kind of speeds up some work. All right, sockets, socket wrenches. Sockets are cylinder shaped. They're used to remove or install nuts and bolts. There's 4 different drive sizes and 4 different points. So if you look up here, we have our, okay, you have your 4-point, and it's just how many corners there are. So this is the side, whatever points it is, that's the side that's going to fit on the nut or the bolt. And you have 4-point, you have 8-point. You have a 6-point, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you have a 12-point all the way around. You want it to have as many points as the bolt that you're trying to take off of. Now you can get away with a 6-point bolt and using the 12-point, but you can't use a 6-point socket on the 12-point bolt. So it only works one way. Now the square side over here, these are called your drive sizes. This is what goes on the socket. So the smallest is a 1/4 inch. The next size up is your 3/8 inch. And then the next size up from that is a 1/2 inch. Those are your 3 most common sizes you're going to use, is your 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. Your 3/8 is going to be the most common one that you use. You'll go up in sizes if you need more strength. If you have to put more torque on it, you'll want to use that 1/2 inch instead of 3/8. If it's something you're working on underneath the dash or something very small fastener, you're going to use the 1/4 inch. Those sockets are usually very small. You do have the 3/4 inch drive. So this is for like very heavy duty trucks. If you're working on a school bus or something like that, that's when you're going to see that 3/4 inch drive size. All right, your socket wrenches, socket handles, they fit into that square opening in the top of the socket. Extensions can be used between the sockets and its handles to create length to make it easier to reach something if it's hard to get to. And universal joints, these swivel and let the socket wrench reach around obstructions. So if you got something in the way, a part in the way, and you kind of have to get over and then down onto a socket, the universal allows it to bend and kind of flex in that joint a little bit to get to that hard component, hard to reach fastener. All right, other wrench types, you have adjustable wrenches or a crescent wrench. This has jaws that adjust to different head sizes. You have a pipe wrench. This is used to grab cylindrical objects. You have Allen wrenches, which is a hexagonal or a 6-sided shaft wrench. This is used for set screws on pulleys, gears, and knobs. So Allen wrenches kind of have an L shape. It's a 6-sided wrench that can fit on things. You also have Allen wrenches that can fit on your socket wrenches or your socket handles, your ratchets. So if you need more leverage and stuff. All right. Your next one is going to be your screwdrivers. These are used to remove or install screws. They come in many shapes and sizes. So starting with the left top up here, you have your standard size. This is also known as a flathead. Next to it, to the right, you have the Phillips head. This is kind of a T shape. It comes to a point, but is a T shape. It has 4 crosses. It kind of cross like that, and it also goes into a point. Next, you have your Pearson. This looks very similar to your Phillips head. The only difference, if you look in here, you can see in the center of the crosses, it has a little raised spot. You can use Pearson on Phillips head screws sometimes, but you want to use the right tool for the job. You might end up rounding the screw out or something, but they look very similar. Then down here at the bottom left, you have your Torx screwdriver. This is a star shape. It has a star shape to it. And then your clutch screwdriver. This has an indentation on either side. This goes to very specific fasteners. You don't really see them very often in the automotive industry, but they are out there. So, all right. Screwdrivers continued. Offset and stubby screwdrivers are used in tight places. So stubby screwdrivers are very short screwdrivers, so you can fit them into places. Offset screwdrivers are an L-shaped screwdriver. That way you can fit it into a space, a very tight space, and be able to turn that screw. Starting screwdrivers, they will hold the screw until it is started. A scratch awl has a sharp pointed tip. It's like a pick. So that's used for marking surfaces. If you have to mark something to drill it or whatever, you use the awl to scratch it into it. Right, and an impact driver. This is used to loosen extremely tight screws. So an impact driver is a device. It's a screwdriver with a very large mechanical handle. When you put it on the screw, you will hit it with a hammer, and you will be pushing into, when you hit it with the hammer, it will force its way into the screw, which gives it a little bit more pressure and keeps it from rounding off. But as it gets forced into it, the mechanism also will turn the screw slightly, or the bit slightly to turn the screw. So it's a very useful tool. It works very well. You will use those out in the real world. Use them a lot for brakes on certain vehicles. All right, pliers are used to grip, cut, crimp, hold, and bend various parts. Your various types are your slip joint pliers up here at the top left. This is your just your generic pliers. It has two different sizes. You have a rib joint pliers here in the center. These are also known as channel locks or adjustable slip joint pliers. So they have many different adjustments. So you can range from a big bolt to a small bolt. To the right of that, you have your needle nose pliers. These are for getting into small spaces. You have your diagonal cutting pliers, or also known as your side pliers, down here on the bottom left. This is for cutting wires and things like that, some light duty cutting. You have your vice grips next to that. These are also known as locking pliers. Vice grips is a brand name. The proper name is locking pliers. And then you have snap ring pliers. If you look here on the very tip, it has very small little notches or nubs that stick out. The snap ring has little holes in it that those slide into, so you can open it or close it if you need to, and it will fit around a shaft or something and clamp onto a groove. All right, your next one's your hammers. Up here top left is a ball peen hammer. You can see it has a flat end and a rounded side on the other end. This is your most common type of hammer used in the automotive shop. Next, you have your sledgehammer. Sledgehammers are very heavy. They are used for when you need a lot of power. You have your plastic hammer and your rubber mallet down here on the bottom left, and your rubber plastic hammers up here on the top right. These are used if you don't want to damage the part you're hitting. The plastic is soft, so it will give, so it doesn't damage the metal that you're striking. And the bottom is your dead blow hammer. Your dead blow hammer has shot in it, or little BBs in it, very small BBs, so that when you strike something, it absorbs the blow and it keeps it from bouncing. These are very nice. It keeps you from the hammer bouncing and hitting you, or hitting something next to it that could be damaged or something. So safety rules: you want to select the right size hammer. Always check the hammer head is tight on the handle. Use brass, plastic, or a dead blow hammer on parts that may be damaged using a steel hammer. Grasp the hammer near the end of the handle and strike squarely. Make sure you're not hitting the hammer sideways or anything. You're hitting it flat and square. Also, do not strike two hammers together. The metal on the hammer is a hardened steel that can chip, and when they chip, they're very sharp, and it can get in your eye. It can cut you. It can injure you. So do not hammer two hammers together. That's a big no-no. All right, chisels and punches. So chisels are used to cut off damaged or rusted nuts, bolts, and rivet heads. Punches can be used for a number of things, such as driving pins out right here with the pin punch. You can use a punch to help align two holes together. Center punch is used for, starting drills and stuff like that. Up here on the left is your chisels though. So you have your flat chisel. This is a flat end. Cape chisel, it's pointed on both ends, or it's slanted on both ends. Round nose chisel, you can see it's only slanted on one. And diamond point chisel, you can see it doesn't really have a end on it like the others. And you also have a chisel or punch holder. This is to keep you from striking your hand. All right, so punches, I was getting a little ahead of myself earlier. Punch types, your center punch is used to mark parts for reassembly or starting holes before drilling. Center punch has a sharp end on it. You'll put it where you want the center of the hole, or the center of where you're drilling, and you'll tap it with a hammer. This will make a little indentation, so the point of the drill bit will not walk or wander around on the part. It will stay where it needs to be. A starting punch or drift punch is used to drive pin shafts and metal rods partway out of the holes. Pin punch are used after starting punch to punch shaft or rod. Aligning punch is used for lining up parts during assembly. So chisel and punch safety, use the largest punch or chisel that will work. Keep both ends of punch or chisel properly ground and shaped. So the sharp end should be properly sharpened. The other end, because it's getting struck with a hammer, the ends of it, the edges of it will mushroom out. It'll resemble a mushroom. Those little ends that curve around can chip off and end up injuring you. So you want to make sure you grind those off when they start getting too big. You also want to chamfer it. So you'll kind of want to angle it in. So you want the end where you're striking kind of angled inward and then flat on the top. Grind slowly to avoid overheating, and wear eye protection. Anytime you do something, you should be wearing eye protection anyway. All right, files are used to remove burrs, nicks, sharp edges, perform other smoothing operations, classified by the length, shape, and the cutting surface. So you can see up here, we have a flat files right here on the left side. So if you're looking at the very end, you can see how it's flat on both ends. And then you can see the cutting surface. You have a flat single cut file. So it's only cut in one direction. And the double cut is kind of like a X along it. So it's cut one way and then they cut it the other way. All right, you look on the right on the end, you can see it's a half round file. So it looks like a moon shape. A 3-corner file has that triangle shape, and a round file, it's round. So file safety rules. You will never want to use a file without the handle securely attached. Apply pressure only on forward stroke. You're only cutting with the file on the forward stroke. When you pull it back, it's not cutting anything. So place one hand on the file and the other on the file tip. Do not file too rapidly. Clean clogged file with file card or wire brush. And never hammer or pry on a file. It is a file, not a pry bar. If you look here, this is called your tang. It's inside the handle. You can see on these, it is sharp. So if the handle is loose or it's not there, that tang can end end up stabbing into you. So that's why you don't want to use it without a handle. Saws. Hacksaws are used for cutting metal. Select the appropriate blade for the job. Teach your point away from the handle. Place one hand on the handle and the other end on the frame. So you can see in this picture how he is holding it. That's how you should be holding it when you use a hacksaw. Holding tools. You have a vise. This holds parts during cutting, drilling, hammering, and pressing operations. These are bolted down on our workbenches. Vise caps or wood blocks can be used to prevent damage to delicate parts in the vise. C-clamp. These are portable. These hold parts to work surface during drilling, filing, cutting, or welding, or anything like that. Never hammer on the vise handle. Keep moving parts clean and oiled. Wear safety glasses. Be careful not to damage parts in the jaw. And use your vise caps if you have them and if you need them. Right. Stands and holding fixtures are used to secure heavy or clumsy parts during repairs, such as cylinder heads, transmission fixtures, and rear axle holding stands. So here's a picture here. This is a cylinder. He's got it in a holding stand. That way he can work on it. It's kind of an awkward shape. It has, different things sticking out from it. So you can't really just have it sitting on the bench sometimes when you're trying to work on it. All right, cleaning tools. These are used to remove carbon, rust, dirt, grease, old gaskets, and dried oil from parts. You have scrapers. This removes grease, gaskets, sludge, dry oil. Goodness, I'm sorry, guys. Dried oil and carbon from flat surfaces. Wear gloves and wash your hands. Brushes. This removes light rust, paint, and dirt from irregular shaped parts. You have probe and pickup tools used when drop nuts or bolts or small parts that can't be reached by hands. You have your magnetic pickup tool. These are great. However, they don't pick up plastic, aluminum, or other types of metals. They only pick up certain types of metal. So if you drop something that's aluminum or brass, the magnetic tool is not going to pick it up. For that, you'll have to use your finger pickup tool. This is a long handle. It has a little button on the end, and it has like 3 or 4 fingers that will reach out, and it kind of just grabs whatever you're trying to reach. These are very nice. Those are what you're going to use for non-magnetic metals, plastics, things like that. And you have a mirror probe. That way you can inspect stuff that you can't really see with your eyes. You can get around and see at a different angle or something. Cutting tools, so like your box cutter and knife, razor blades, they're used to open boxes, cut off insulation, and various cutting and scraping things. Pry bars are strong steel bars used for assembly, disassembly, and adjustment operations. They can be used for aligning heavy parts. However, use caution when you're prying stuff. If you're prying something and you're putting a lot of force on it, you run the risk of damaging or breaking it. Make sure you have all the bolts, all the fasteners removed. If you're prying on something and it doesn't really want to give, double check and make sure you have all your fasteners removed. Maybe check your service manual. There might be a hidden fastener somewhere you didn't see, and that's holding you up. If you pry hard enough and you haven't removed it, you risk damaging that part you're prying against. All right, insulated tools. Insulated tools insulate the user from electrical shock and electrocution. Frequently used for hybrid drive vehicles or electric vehicles. Use tools that are rated for 1,000 volts, 1,000 V, 1,000 volts. That's a lot of voltage. Available in sets for hybrid vehicle surface. So these are coated. Usually these tools are bright orange. They have some type of ceramic coating on them They're very heavily insulated to handle that 1,000 volts. You'll want to use these when you're working on hybrids or electric vehicles, especially when you're working on the batteries. Right? Insulated tools can be insulated wrenches, electrician pliers, high voltage pliers, plastic pliers, graphite, and high voltage screwdrivers. So, like I said, every tool they have some type of high voltage. That way, you can work on those hybrid vehicles, because it would be completely silly that they wouldn't make tools to make it safe to work on those things. So they have tools to do that. All right. So that's the end of this slide. Be sure to check the playlist on my YouTube playlist under the tools to watch some videos, so you can see some see certain tools and things like that. Have great videos up there also to show you what you need to start as a technician. There's a couple videos up there that will also show you what you need to start, and also how to do it on a budget as well. The Humble Mechanic video I have up there is great. He has a budget, and he is able to create a whole toolbox or roll around cart for entry level technician. And then from there, you can build up your tools as you go and get paid and stuff like that. So be sure to check those videos out. They will help you a lot. So if you have any questions, be sure to find me after class, and I will be sure to answer them for you.